textile and lace designer who travels a lot. She's British in heritage, but she's actually learning French because she is half French, and most of the French designers have been calling on her. So this is sort of her travel notebook. It's a French course, but it also contains a lot of her sketches and inspiration from designers that she likes. Let me try to fix the sunlight here. It's morning sun, so it's perfect, but the glare and the shadows are bad. Again, it's 5x7. And it has an extended spine. So originally an inch, and now all the way to this black end here is roughly 2.5 inches. Over 200 sides or pages for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signatures. So it's pretty full. But I tried to get some fashions in there per request. When I have these new pins using some of Sam Poole's stamps, just to show you where the fashions are, and there's one in the back. Not a lot of embellishments because the fabrics and the laces are on the inside. And so this is, I'll call her, let's see, Jacqueline. I love that name. She's actually half British, half French, growing up in Great Britain. And she's a textile and lace designer. So I've just paper clipped that there, a little bit of a French botanical page. And I did keep a lot of the original pages of the book. So you'll see them here added back in. I made this tag into a pocket, or actually a lace, what do you call these? Swatch label from Sam Poole. And there's a lot of antique or vintage French textile designs in here, as well as some florals, because this designer is actually influenced by botanicals. A little bit of antique fabric swatches from France, French billet doux. These first 3 pages I wanted to keep just to, again, an homage to the original book. French course, and because she is half British, half French, she's actually relearning her French, 1907. Of course, I have to include some antique French documents. That one is from 1840. And this is from Marie at French Manufacture. And this is considered her travel book, her travel and design sketchbook. That's why I had it tightly wound with this cord, just to keep it nice and tight. And this fabric on the side actually represents a lace that she's currently working on. And some of the botanical buttons, whether they're Czechoslovakian or antique French, mother of pearl, all of Mother Nature's special textures and colors that come from nature. So a little bit of eco dyeing from Ellen Martin, originals. French luggage tag, of course, because she's traveling. She's always forgetting her labels for her luggage, so she has a few extra. And here are a few more of those French textile designs. I printed these onto 96 or 97-year-old vintage British ledger paper. Look at all that. Look at the fountain pen ink on there. And it's so soft, if you could only feel this paper. But these come from the same antique French textiles notebook that you can find online from the public domain. I've added a few dried flowers. This is actually yarrow, but somehow it dried a little pink, if you could see that. And I've just backed it with Ruby and Pearl Exo's Antique Botanicals digital that I love using. And lately I've been printing everything to the vintage British ledgers. So this specimen card is printed to some 90-year-old ledger. A lot of French magazine pages, original. You notice I don't embellish too much on the pages for my altered books so that they don't get too bulky. And because I really love just old books. I actually wanted to learn from this one. I didn't do my homework very much though. But here's the preface, and it's the softest paper, really. This is my favorite French school notebook paper that I get from Ripple's Paper Hugger in, not Norway, but somewhere there. I'll look it up and flash her up on the screen. I'm sure most of you know her. Vintage French ledger paper from Kay's Vintage Ephemera. I know the person who requested this doesn't journal much, and she said she'd just be collecting it. But I don't know. I love ledger paper. I love the vintage and antique ledger paper too much not to use it. I could have gone with coffee dye, but I think my thing is to use old book pages and ledger paper, and as much authentic book pages or magazines as I can. So, this is actually William Morris's notes on different arts and crafts, sketches, and textile notes that he has. So those are his writings. On the back, you'll notice I did print to that almost antique ledger, and that's the original fountain pen ink. But with his, you can't tell what's his and what's somebody else's. And then here's a little bit more of that French antique textile. Put on this page here, number 261 is the first fashion design on the back. I just did a little bit of decoupaging here. It's kind of arty how this pattern paper turned out. But on the back side is your first outfit. It is black with white chalk, so I did have to seal it just because the white chalk was smudging. So the seal is actually done in a little floral print. But this first outfit is supposed to be an embroidered daisy on the front. So some of my notes, sheer lace skirt, so it's a different layer of lace. And this is her lace design number 261 for the embroidered front piece. Her other lace, I should number that one as well. But because she is a traveling textile designer going to the big French houses, she's got a Dior meeting in February that she's preparing for. And this actually here is Sam Poole's sewing kit? I'll be sure to put that in the link below to make sure I have the right kit. But those are her swatch cards. And I just backed it with a little bit of the vintage ledger paper, just so that you can take notes on the lace itself. And this is actually a vintage French lace that I have. Trying to remember if that's from Donna Morgan. Eco dye, first signature. Second signature, I have a lot of the vintage British ledger paper. This is Lombard Street. What's the date? 1910 or 1920? I can't read that anymore. But I thought this would be fun to use in your other projects. A little bit of the dried yarrow. And then this is another Sam Poole swatch card with very, very beautiful antique Victorian lace. It came from a Victorian dress. That is special. That was expensive and hard to find, but I thought it was just really inspirational. So it's just kind of floating. Paper clipped it to some vintage French ledger paper. And then of course my French book pages from another French reader, I think, education or school book. Different stories and poems. More of the French ledger or writing tablet, buttery, and British ledger, but written. I just love to see the handwriting. And a French fashion magazine with some romance, a romantic story. So I kept that in full. So I just folded it. So it just kind of folds up like a little accordion. That's the center. And of course, because she is traveling, she has to take her mail with her. And so she reads and catches up on the train whenever possible. And then I just put more of that Lombard Street carbon copy inside for you. More French book pages. I really need to go back. Of course, food. A little bit of Botanical, French Botanical. This is an embroidery, or no, a fashion magazine. Don't remember which one. a little bit of embroidery. And again, she's actually holding a handkerchief or a shawl made of lace. So just like Jacqueline, the book owner and the designer, she has a little piece of lace she's working on that's attached to the book. So whether it's a scarf, shawl, or handkerchief, there's a lot of lace. A lot of inspiration. That's just sitting on this lock-to paper. I love the lock-to paper. This one's a little thinner, so I can use it as actual book pages. And this actually comes from Nice, France. It was part of an antique scrapbook. And the lady, I don't think she's on Instagram, but I'll post her Etsy store below. She cut them up into postcard sizes. And then this antique photograph is actually from Catherine at French Bijoux. Two girls, so I imagine this is Jacqueline's sister. So while she's traveling, you know, of course she misses her friends and family. But her sister inspires her work. So already you've got a lot of floral, lace, and intricate designs to help inspire her work. This is a floating embroidery piece card. It was actually part of a magazine page or book page. And it has some of the scalloped edging that she's working on right now for a client, the Dior dress. This really inspired a lot of her stitching. And it has a little swatch of antique lace, French lace right there. But see all the designs, a lot of floral inspiration, a little bit of the floral antique lace, French lace there. So all these three together really inspire her lace and fabric designs. A little bit of a fabric, sheer fabric that actually makes up the next outfit, and some area for notes and some samples, additional stamping, dates, and this design is meant to go to another Parisian house. She created, let's see, lace number 9190 for the skirt. This is actually more like a rose, climbing rose on a trellis embroidery design backed by sheer lace as the undergarment, and then a sheer fabric for the top that is sleeveless and off shoulder with a polka dot. So these are actually the ledger paper, the carbon copies from the British ledger, and I just wrote some notes about how I designed that. So sheer lace lining embroidery, and maybe share it with Dior or maybe Balenciaga, depending. Actually, was Balenciaga already in France this year? I don't remember. I think he was just coming up in France. Backed by Ruby and Pearls, XO's swatch card. This one actually has 3 slots that you can add your swatches to. She used this for my book, the Maria book she made me. And this is a black silk, raw silk for pants or skirts. Here's the sheer top. So this can actually be paired with pants. And then here's the lace design that's actually for the skirt. I've just pinned this on here so that you could see how I stitch on the back. It's not perfect on the back, but again, I have to make these pretty flat to fit, in, especially in these smaller books. So you could actually journal on the back here for some extra space if you like. But I just like how that really turned out. So that's the second one. And this is just a bit of French ledger paper from Catherine, French Bijoux, and I love the handwriting, so I just wanted it a flip out. I know this person who originally requested it, if she chooses, she doesn't want it necessarily for journaling, but I just really love my ledger papers. Not only for the quality, but in case you choose to write. So there's that second outfit there. Put it away nicely. More French magazine and some vegetables in case you want to grow some. This is a little lace envelope from the UK, and I'll link her Etsy below. Her store is, I forget her store name right now, has a little mother of pearl. And I went ahead and put the antique prayer card and the Victorian die cut from Catherine at French Bijoux in there. Again, because it's floral, botanical, inspiring, as you'll notice on the lace design here. And then also there's your French prayer card on the back. And this is pretty delicate, so you could actually put that anywhere or gift it, and that's why I have it in here. And it's just sitting on the vintage British ledger paper. See all the fountain pen ink. And then on the back here is a copy of one of those antique French textile sketches again from this book you can find on the public domain. It's actually quite beautiful. I might want to make myself a journal of these designs. And then a little bit of wallpaper from Ruby and Pearl XO with little bits of lace. I didn't want to layer too much because I have the swatch cards in here and it was getting pretty thick. And because it is an altered book, again with a hollow spine, I want it to lay flat. I didn't want it to get too bulky. And I figure if she's traveling and using this as her design sketchbook and travel log, I really didn't want it to get too bulky with a lot of fabrics. Just a lot of French ephemera and pretty much all French and or British pages, except for the locked up paper. I didn't use any coffee dye or anything. Little bits of fabrics, ideas she's putting together, what her laces could go well with. You might notice some tweed, so she might be talking to Chanel pretty soon. Just a little hint. But I love these browns and these tone-on tones. And then this is actually a William Morris sketch. I have I had the smaller one out there, but you can see his actual notes. So this one is also in British Ledger, but no fountain pen to bleed through. But I just love that. I mean, to be part of that arts and crafts movement in the late 1800s, early 1900s. But his sketches and his writing is just as messy as mine. Back of the French ledger paper from Catherine. So much writing space, I know. But just in case she doesn't want it, I could always list this on Etsy for anyone who really loves to journal. And then this is one of the freebie specimen cards from Peg and All. And I just put this little rose. I didn't press it perfectly just because it kept moving around in my passport, but it smells really good, so I just wanted to include it here. But I just put that on the locked up paper since it's strong enough, and it's backed by a couple more of these sketches on this nearly antique ledger paper from Great Britain with a fountain pen bleeding through. But I just love this. I saw Irina from Meditative Scrapbooking. I mentioned she likes to do these layers of scrap papers to take notes on, and I just love how that looks in a travel notebook or sketchbook. Music paper from Denmark. Ruby and Pearl. I just associate Ruby and Pearl with French anything, but that's her wallpaper there, and it's just a shorter page. You could do some design sketches here, a lot of writing, more ledger paper, and another Sampool swatch card, a little bit bigger. I print them, again, on ledger paper because I just love the quality. If you could only feel this. It's so thick. It's not quite cotton rag, but it's quite beautiful for fountain pen. I mean, look at how nice that is. And then a little bit of vintage lace. I have that in this pocket. This magazine, French magazine page. French ledger. And then I made this her cash journal using another William Morris sketch of, I think he calls this Rose on a Trellis. I'll confirm what this art piece or the sketch is, but it's just paper clipped on there. And then you can open it up for more sketching, more logs. She's actually going to use this to log all of her sales to the big couture houses and the orders and which laces and what designs they want from her. And this one is the fourth signature here. Got some thread in between. And it's a French Edith Holden. And I did make it into a tuck, and then just a little bit of a French receipt left over in ledger, and a stamp from one of Postal Love Sales' stamps. You know how when you get her orders from Belgium, she covers them in stamps. I love using them over, so that's a Belgian stamp. You can use this as a tuck here. And I don't know if I focused in on this French clip hairpin. It's vintage, and it's from Oh La La Camille. I'll be sure to link her Etsy as well, but I just love that because it's also botanical inspired. It looks like pages. Look at that detail. And then some of your embroidered letters on the back. And it's so old. I mean, it's fragile and it has the water stains, but it still feels really good in the hand. And it binds really well. More of the school tablet. Oh, and more pronunciation pages. I should have scanned these, actually, and made them into poster sizes for my room. Whatever I can salvage or important chapters will go in the journal. So I left a few of these because actually these are really good pronunciation explanations and exercises, and you'll see some of the handwriting of the former owner learning. And as Jacqueline has to go to France nearly every week or every other week, she really needs to get fluent. Expressions for classroom use, I like that. Real exercises. So you'll see I was able to include quite a few of the pages. And the rest of the book I'm keeping for myself and putting in other journals because it really is good. A little bit of antique ledger writing here from Great Britain. Look how, yeah, the paper clipped. But look how water stained that is. It's so beautiful. It's not a mold because I'm allergic to mold, so but it is just a water stain. And then Ruby and Pearls Exo's wallpaper in red. You just need a splash of color. And then on the back is some embossed paper, also from that seller in the UK. I'll be sure to link her below. She's somebody new that I purchased a kit from for fabrics for my niece's baby book. But I love her embossing, and the paper she used is really fine, so I wonder if it's also an old ledger. But there, don't want to tear. More of the French embroidery magazine, Petit Correspondence, so a little bit of writing. And then this is the back of the Edith Holden page for the month of September, kept it a tuck again. Then I paper clipped some more floral inspiration. This is also from the UK and George King and Company receipt from a British company. But I just love the floral inspiration. And then it goes with the third fashion design. It's the same sheer fabric that she designed, but this time it's in a sleeveless V-neck. So it's almost like a vest inspired by Chanel's riding vests with a little bit of a casual leather belt, and there's that raw silk pant. So I just wanted to show the versatility of that sheer fabric she's designing below. But I printed it to my Locta paper and then tore some of the edges just to show you some of the Locta fibers. And I love how the raw silk and the fibers of the paper and the sheer fabrics really go well. And then we are at the last signature, which is a French magazine page on how to fold and wear your scarves. Because everybody needs to know how. And then of course there's a romance story on the inside, so I just folded that to be able to include it. I don't like cutting magazine pages, especially if they're French. But I love all the ways to wear your scarf as a belt. You can wear it as a belt. Traditional ways, you can wear it another belt, and some women even wear it as a bracelet. So that's just floating there. A very antique back of the magazine. This is Femina magazine, I think. 1909, maybe 1908. It has a lot of staining, but I just love that. You know, back then she might have been transitioning from wearing these, what do they call them? I've already forgotten. Gosh. Corsets, to more free-flowing fabrics that she's designing for her laces and her textiles. There's a little bit of an antique lace down here that's a little bit more like almost like a sheer paper. It's so fine. And I just love the little peekaboo looks of lace here and there without adding too much bulk. This is ledger paper from the UK, and it's slightly yellow, so I just loved how it went with the Edith Holden French book page, which I also got from Kay's Vintage. More ledger paper from Kay's Vintage, and then some more of that ledger paper, nearly antique with a fountain pen running through. It feels really good. That fountain pen is just beautiful, even splotchy. And a little article on the 8 best looks from Paris. This is actually printed on just some sketch paper so that she could do some design work on the train. Centerfold of ledger because I like handwriting. And because this book had to carry a little bit more weight with the designs, I do tend to reinforce my signatures in the center, especially if I think there's going to be movement with the, things like this fabric moving around. So that's why I do that. Ledger, ledger, ledger. And then the end of the Edith Holden and the back of that magazine page. Comparison. Don't forget your nice shoes when you're traveling. A little bit flat. The back of the magazine page with the different ideas on how to wear your scarf. And then in the back, because I couldn't fit the wool thread or the ledger paper from with the design of William Morris on it, I just put some scraps back here, including a map of her British neighborhood. So when she gets back, she knows which train or which bus to take or train to take home. And that's her home neighborhood. So just folded that up because everyone who travels needs to know their schedule. And a little bit larger of a specimen card printed to ledger paper in the back. A button card from Sam Poole. And then I backed it with the locked up paper, just like the front. I didn't add a button or a pocket, just in case the owner wants to add her own pocket. But I like this back clipboard idea. Jibineri did this on her Dyer's Daughter ring-bound journal, and also Ira from Meditative Scrapbooking, just to pile on papers. And then use this almost like a writing board, so that closes there. There's the back with the buttons, more French antique mother of pearl buttons to actually hold the fabric to the book, even though it's glued. I just don't want it going anywhere. And that's the how it looks on the back with the lace. This lace you could actually take off if you want to use it for other projects. It's just threaded in a few strategic spots to this vintage or nearly antique linen, French linen that I love to use for strength, that extended the spine. So you could actually take bits of this off, but I just liked how it looked, you know, when you're carrying your handkerchief or your scarf in your hand along with your journal. And then, you know, the train's about to deboard and you just need to quickly wrap it back up tightly. And so that's why I chose this leather band, just so that she can wrap it up tightly without losing any of her notes. So there you go. So I will show this to the person who requested it first, and then if she chooses not to keep it, I will list it on Etsy, but I'll be sure to update everyone on Instagram. But thanks for watching, and I hope you like the flip through, and I'll see you for the next two fashion journals that are being worked on right now. They're going to be larger, and of course they're going to be Gabrielle Chanel's history. So thanks again. Bye.